Viewers of this content have been really clear that they think MPs should be held to the same standards of candour, telling the truth, as any other public official when Hillsborough Law comes into effect. And I know that you'll be interested to find out more about a proposal under consideration in Wales, in which their elected representatives, AMs, would be prohibited from deliberate dishonesty when they're standing for election and when they are acting as representatives in the Welsh Parliament. Elkan Abrahamson is a solicitor who has represented people affected by state cover-ups for decades. He's also one of the authors of Hillsborough Law, and Elkan's been asked to give evidence to the committee in Wales who are looking at those legislative proposals. What is it about the idea of using law to prevent deliberate dishonesty by elected representatives that you find so interesting?
So the Welsh Senate is looking at this, and they're looking at legislation to penalise candidates who lie, which I find fairly straightforward in the sense that if you're a candidate, you don't have the protections of a ministerial assembly or a parliamentary assembly. But they're also looking at penalising MPs who lie, and I think that is difficult, and I hate to use the word constitutionally, but it's a difficult thing to get your head round if you're giving judges the power to judge MPs who are alleged to have told lies. And the reason that's difficult is MPs are elected, but judges are not elected, they're appointed. So do we want as a society to have our appointed officials taking steps against elected MPs?
Or AMs, as in Wales?
Yes. And I just think perhaps we do, but I think that requires a lot more thought and consideration. I think the net result will be that the trust that people have in judges, such as it is at risk of disappearing because judges then get involved in politics, and I think that's a very dangerous step to take.
So do you think that whilst it sounds really good, the idea of preventing deliberate dishonesty through some legal mechanism, that there is an argument to say that AMs may be seeking to almost externalise the responsibility for policing their own conduct?
Yes, and parliaments are used to self-policing. So we do have mechanisms in place already. And as I say, I think we can distinguish between parliamentary members, AMs, while they're in office, and candidates, which I think is a different subject entirely. The problem is when someone who is a parliamentary officer, let's say an MP or an AM, is then a candidate at the same time they're a sitting MP. How do you look at those? That's another issue to worry about.
Yes. So how do you think that this fits together with the overall objectives of Hillsborough Law in terms of stopping the lying?
I think we want to create an atmosphere where it's unacceptable to lie. It's easier to do that with public officers without looking at MPs, AMs, etc. But the hope is that the culture will be all-enveloping, that if everyone else stops lying, MPs might start thinking, oh, well, it's not a great idea to lie after all. I will, in effect, get punished, even if it's only at the ballot box.
So do you think that the idea of culture change behind Hillsborough Law might itself produce different kinds of behaviours from elected officials without having to rely on judges to police our elected officials?
That sounds dreadfully optimistic when you actually put it to me in those terms. Hope rather than think, I think. And, you know, we take things step by step. We see how it goes. It's possible to institute further legislation if it's not working as we want it to work. But culture change is everything, I think.
Thanks, Elkan.